Hello students, and welcome back to yet another video on business economics micro. Now this is the last part of your third unit. I have already uploaded 3 videos for this third unit, and in these 3 videos we have studied about demand analysis, like demand, law of demand, assumptions of law of demand, like exceptions of law of demand, determinants of demand, types of demand, variation in demand, change in demand, right? A price elasticity of demand, types of price elasticity of demand, a measurement of price elasticity of demand, right? Uses of price elasticity of demand we have studied, and in the third video we have studied about income elasticity of demand, cross elasticity of demand, right? Significance of all these, and of course demand forecasting. So this much we have covered in third unit till now. So now the last part of third unit is about supply, right? So let's complete today. I'll share my screen with you guys now. Okay, so let's begin. Yes. So let's understand what is supply first. Supply is a fundamental economic concept that describes the total amount of a specified good or services that is available to the consumers. So unlike demand, supply refers to the willingness of a seller to sell the specified amount of a product within a particular price and time. So supply is always defined in relation to price and time. For example, if a supplier agrees to sell 500 kgs of wheat, it cannot be considered supply of wheat as the price and time factor are missing, right? So let's understand a law of supply. So other things remaining unchanged, a rise in price of a product is followed by an extension of supply, and a fall in price is followed by a contraction of the supply of that product. That means exactly opposite to demand, wherein there was an opposite relationship between price and demand. Here there is direct relationship between price and demand. That means let's understand with the help of a schedule. If you can see, the price is rising, supply is also rising. That means with the rise in price, quantity supplied rises, and with the fall in price, quantity supplied falls, right? So when we see a graph, the graph slopes upward, demonstrating that at higher prices, firm will increase the supply. That means when the price rises from P1 to P2, the quantity supplied will rises from Q1 to Q2, right? Next, let's understand the determinants of supply or assumptions of supply. Both the questions have same answer. So whatever question you are asked, you have to write these 9 points. So let's understand these points one by one. The very first one is price of a good. And now other things being equal, the higher the price of a good, the greater the quantity of it that will be supplied. So change in supply with respect to change in price is termed as variation in supply of a product. Now it refers to the main factor that influences supply of a product to a greater extent. Now, unlike demand, there is direct relationship between price and product and its supply. So if the price of product increases, then supply of a product also increases, and vice versa. Understand? The next is prices of related goods. Now, related goods refers to as substitutes or complements. You know, we have certain law of demand, substitutes and complements, and they also affect supply of a product. Like for example, if the price of wheat increases, then farmers would tend to grow more wheat than rice. This would decrease supply of rice in the market. So price of related goods, for example, substitutes, if the price of other goods rise, they become more profitable to the firm to produce and sell than the good in question. So it implies that if price of Y rises, the one supplied of X falls, that both are substitutes, of course. So for example, if price of wheat rises, the farmers may shift land to wheat production and away from soybean or corns or rice production. Understood? The next assumption or determinant of supply is cost of production. Now it implies the supply of a product would decrease with increase in the cost of production and vice versa. Now the supply of a product and cost of production are inversely related to each other. Like for example, a seller would supply less quantity of a product in the market when the cost of production exceeds the market price of the product, of course. In such a case, seller would wait for the rise in price in the future. So cost of production rises due to several factors, like such as loss of fertility of land, higher wage rates of labor, increase in the prices of raw material, or it can be to transportation cost, or it can be to tax rates. So there are a lot of reasons why cost of production rise. So it affects supply, right? The next one is state of technology. Now, the supply of a particular product depends upon the state of technology also. For example, inventions and innovations tend to make it possible to produce more or better goods with the same resources, and thus they tend to increase the quantity supplied of some product. So, state of technology is one of the important determinant of supply. A better and advanced technology, of course, increases the supply, the production of the product, which results in the, of course, increase in the supply. So for example, the production of fertilizers and good quality seeds increases production of crops. This further increases the supply of food grains in the market. You understand? The next one is government policy, that is determinant of supply or assumptions of law of supply. So the production of a good may be subject to imposition of commodity taxes such as excise duty, sales tax, import duties, etc. So these raise the cost of production, and so the quantity supplied of a good will increase only when the price in the market rises. So implies that the different policies of government, such as fiscal policy and industrial policy, has a greater impact on supply of product. Like for example, increase on tax on excise duties would decrease supply of a product. On the other hand, if the tax is low, then supply of product would increase, right? The next assumption of law of supply is no future expectations. That is, speculation about future price can also affect supply of a product. For example, if producers or sellers expect the rise in price in future, then they tend to reduce the supply at present, even at higher prices, in order to supply more or even more higher price in future, right? So it can be like if they expect that future price will rise, right? So they increase their supply in future. Next is natural conditions. That implies that climatic conditions directly affect the supply of certain products. For example, specifically the supply of agriculture products increase when monsoon comes in time. We all know that. So however, supply of these products decreases at time of drought. Some of the crops are climate specific and their growth purely depends upon climatic conditions. So for example, Kharif crops are well grown at this time of summer, while Rabi crops are produced well in winter. So this affects the supply of these crops. The next is transport conditions. Now, transport conditions refer to the fact that better transport facilities increase supply of products. Better means at the least cost. You know? So transport is always a constraint to the supply of products. As the products are not available on time due to poor transport facilities, so that would restrict the supply, and therefore even if the price of a good increases, the supply would not increase because transportation is not possible. There's a problem, right? So in India, sellers usually use road transport, and the poorly maintained road makes it difficult to reach the destination on time. The products that are manufactured in one part of the city need to be spread in the whole country through road transport. So this may result in the damage of most of the products during the journey, so which can cause heavy loss for a seller. So in addition, the seller can also lose his her customers because of the delay in the delivery of products. This is how the transport affects. The next is factor price and the availability. Now factors of production or what we mean to say. So as act as one of the major determinant of demand. Like factors of production can be inputs such as raw materials, man, material, equipment, machines required at a time of production. So if the factors are available in sufficient quantity at lower price, of course, then there would be increase in production because it would affect cost of production indirectly. So this would increase supply of a product in the market. For example, like availability of a cheap labor or a lesser cost raw material right? Nearby the plant, manufacturing plant would help to reduce the labor and transportation cost. So consequently, the production and supply of the product would increase. So these were the determinants and assumptions of law of supply. Now understand the exemptions of the law of supply, right? The very first, where the law of supply fails. When you say it's exception, it means where law of supply doesn't act as good, it fails. So first one is rare goods. So in case of rare goods like postal stamps of various countries, coins, rare pictures, paintings, like antiques, supply is always fixed, whatever be the price of the good. That supply will be constant. For example, a person who has a hobby of collecting rare stamps will offer it to anybody even at higher prices. Hence, the law is not applicable in case of special hobbies of the people. The next exception is auction sale. In case of auction, law is not true because suppliers of such goods may be in urgent need of money, so they does not bother about price as they want to perform sale at the earliest. So a businessman wants to settle down in foreign country, for example, and is willing to dispose of his goods in India at auction at the earliest. So in this case, he will be ready to supply all his goods and sell all his goods or any other business assets in India, even at the whatever price he is getting, right? He won't wait for more higher price, right? The next exception is price expectation. Now, if producers or sellers expect the rise in price in future, they will tend to reduce supply at present and wait for the future rise, and then sell at a future higher price. So even at today's higher price, they don't sell. So the law fails. Next is savings. In initial stages, savings increase with an increase in the rate of interest. But at later stage, consumption expenditure rises with a rise in the level of income and savings go on declining. So in such case, also saving diminishes with the rise in income. That is, supply of saving decreases even with the rise in rate of interest. So these are the 4 exceptions of the law of supply, right? So now the next part of this particular video is equilibrium of demand and supply for price determination. So we'll understand that now, right? So let's understand this, right? Now, what is market equilibrium? Now, the operation of the market depends upon the interaction between buyers and sellers, right? So an equilibrium is the condition that exists when quantity supplied and quantity demanded are equal. At equilibrium, there is no tendency for the market price to change. Okay. So the logic of the model of demand and supply is simple, right? The demand curve shows the quantities of a particular good or service that buyers will be willing and able to purchase at each price during a specified period. That is how we understood law of demand. And supply curve shows the quantities that sellers will offer for sale at each price during that same period. We just understood that law of supply. So by putting the 2 curves together, as you can see in the figure, we should be able to find a price at which the quantity buyers are willing and able to purchase equals the quantity sellers will offer for sale. You getting my point? So when we combine the demand and supply curve for a good in a single graph, the point at which they intersect identifies the equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity. Here in the graph, the equilibrium price it 6 can you see 6 pounds per pound, and consumers demand, the suppliers supply 25 million pounds of coffee per month at this price. Can you see that, the black line and the intersecting? Okay, so that is their equilibrium price, that is $6 per pound. Okay, so notice that the 2 curves intersect at a price of $6 per pound. At this price, the quantities demanded and supplied are equal. Buyers want to purchase, sellers are willing to offer for sale 25 million pounds of coffee per month. Okay, so the market for coffee is in equilibrium. So unless the demand or supply curve shifts, there will be no tendency for price to change. The equilibrium price in any market is the price at which quantity demand equals quantity supplied. So the equilibrium price in the market for coffee is the $6 per pound, and the equilibrium quantity is the quantity demanded and supplied at the equilibrium You're getting my point? So this is how you study market equilibrium. Okay, I hope you've understood the concept here. So yeah, our third unit ends here. There are 4 videos of third unit. Please go through it. It's very interesting and simple. If you don't understand, you can ask me anytime. Okay, you can put up in the on the YouTube message. I will reply. Okay. Also, you can reply me on a WhatsApp personally. Okay. So I hope you are studying hard. Now in the next lecture, we'll start with the 4th unit, last unit. Thank you, everyone.